Cerca de 20 años atrás, Nicole Kidman encabezó una película muy polémica llamada Reencarnación, en donde en una escena tuvo que besar a un menor de edad. Al día de hoy seguimos hablando de esta producción, por lo que le pregunté al mismísimo Cameron Bay, el chico que tuvo que encabezar esta producción, cómo fue besarse con Nicole Kidman, qué le explicaron y si cree que es posible hacerla hoy en día. Mirá.
We now return to Mira Akien and Contre with our latest interview.
It's amazing working on that movie with everyone, you know.
Am I to understand that 10-year-old boy told you he was your late husband, Sean?
He said, "It's me, Sean. What am I supposed to think?"
You know, working with Nicole Kidman, we had paparazzi everywhere. You know, there was always anytime we were outside, there was paparazzi trying to take photos, blah, 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 blah. Well, we did that kiss scene at like 9 o'clock at night on one of the busiest roads, like one of the main roads bordering, Central Park in New York and Manhattan. There wasn't a single paparazzi there the whole time. And we were out in the middle of nowhere kissing each other. Nicole Kidman kissing a little child. And it was the next day. I remember my mom walked up to one of the paparazzi guys and was like, "Oh, so no one was there last night." And the guy was literally like, "Wait, it happened?" And he was like, and my mom's like, "Yeah, they did the kiss scene last night." And he was like, "No," he's like, "Man, that was a $50,000 photo." Like, it's like, wait, what? My mom is like, "Man, I should have taken a photo of it."
What did they tell you when you were this little kid that you were going to do this? What memories do you have of this?
Yeah, so it was actually pretty interesting, like I was 10 at the time. So, and like the controversy over it was crazy. In reality, so Jackie, the lady that I started acting with, who I'd mentioned before, who approached my mom and kind of got us into it, she, was my acting coach for, the formative years, I could say, of my acting career. And so they actually like Bert, the movie, the director and everything, they had flown her out with me, and they had actually paid for her to be there the whole time, just because they knew that, because she had worked with me for, a few years already, that if anything, our relationship would allow her to be able to teach me kind of like what I had to feel, better than anybody else. And that was like, I'll always remember the conversation I had with her when it was explaining the kiss. And and I guess trying to explain it to a 10-year-old, like, I wouldn't dream of it, but but she did a good job in the fact of, I remember her specifically saying, she was just asking me about love, like, how much you love your mother, right? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Okay, how much you love your brother, right? Yeah. Okay, you love your dad, right? Yeah. And she was like, "Okay, well, this person that you love more than all of them. The love you feel for your mother, your brother, everyone combined, that's how you feel for this woman." And somehow I computed that in my 10-year-old brain. But yeah, like, I remember that, maybe it's, and it's interesting to think about, like, so Jackie was actually my first kiss, because I kissed her before I kissed, and that's even weird to think about, but yeah, and that's the thing, is we rehearsed it with Nicole, and obviously the director. And I mean, Nicole was amazing. She was like a second mother to me. And yeah, it was kind of one of those things where, again, like, yeah, I don't know what was going through my mind necessarily, but but I guess it worked. And yeah, the bathtub scene as well, it was super, again, like, obviously the way they filmed it, it made it look very good, but it was super tasteful. I was wearing, like skinny little, skin things, and she was wearing cups and blah blah blah, so we weren't naked by any means. But yeah, again, it's always one of those things to think back on that movie. It's pretty interesting for sure.
What are you doing?
I'm looking at my life.
Yeah, the controversy after was hilarious. Like, we had interviews like in my hometown and stuff. Yeah, I remember one specifically. It was like an hour-long interview, like an hour and a half on camera. And my mom had specifically said, do not ask a single question. Like, do not ask about the kiss. Do not ask about the bathtub. We're here to talk about Cameron and the movie and blah, blah, not that, it's been talked about. And yeah, it was like 45 minutes into the interview. Of course, the guy's like, so I got to ask, what happened in the bathtub or whatever. And I was like 11. And I think my answer was something like, the only thing stirring bubbles in the bathtub are the media. And the guy was just like, okay. And I was like, he was not expecting that good of an answer, I don't think. But it was funny because out of that whole hour-long interview, the only 2 minutes that was on TV was that question. And my mom was choked. But it was one of those things where like, that was actually the first experience I'd ever had with like doing a press junket for a movie. It was definitely, and it was basically all because of that scene.
I'm Sean. I love Anna and I'm her husband.
I can't get him out of my system. I can't.
Like one of the other scenes that's talked about a lot is when I collapse, when I'm in the hallway or whatever, and she tells me to go away and I'm not Sean, or I can't remember exactly what she says that makes me pass out. But we did that we did it so many times. And it was just one of those things where like I had never passed out before. So I didn't necessarily know how to pass out or like collapse or anything, and it wasn't even the director. I think it was the director of photography, so the DOP finally, that was just like, what did he was like, what you need, he was like, what you're doing is you're too stiff. He was like, you need to act like you're just like a spaghetti noodle and just like, just like fall. And so that's what, and it was like, boom, okay, yep, done, done right there. Perfect take kind of thing, right? But it was even just that from a 10-year-old brain, like when, and that's the thing about acting. I feel like I'm kind of one of those natural actors where it's, if I haven't lived it, then I can't necessarily act it the greatest, right? And it's like once you've lived through something, then it's like, it's pretty easy to relive it, sadly enough, no matter how good or bad it is. But so it was crazy. It was all just a learning experience for me on Birth. Like even working with Lauren Bacall, like at the time, I didn't necessarily know, but now like looking back, and our relationship was fairly limited, but I, again, like just the being able to work with them and pick up the small things or whatever I did off of them, it was amazing.
You ask Anna who she loves more, me or Joseph. Go ahead. Go ask her.
Do you think this movie could be done in this time and era where everyone is like canceling everything, like criticizing everything?
Like it might be a little like risque, but I don't, I think if anything, I almost feel like these days kind of those stories almost get through more now. It's like it's one of those things where like I'm going through it right now myself with trying to make my own films and make short films and so on and so forth, and it really is kind of it's it's a double-edged sword. It can be good or bad, but really I feel like most things these days kind of have to make a statement to be able to make it anywhere. They just have to do it tastefully. So